Princess Peach Showtime is the most inventive, original, and fresh game that Nintendo is releasing, even more than Super Mario Wonder, in my opinion. When its cryptic teaser was released months ago, it was difficult to tell what type of game it would become, and now that we have a proper trailer out, I can positively say that I still can't tell what type of game this is. And that's because this game doesn't inhabit any particular genre, and that's a good thing. This game is a chameleon in the fact that it takes on whatever identity it wants whenever it chooses. 1 minute, it's a fast-paced hack-and-slash game. The other, it's some kind of weird Mario Party-esque mini-game, and it pulls all of this off under the guise of a plot based inside of a theater. If you still think that's a bad idea, let me point you to Super Mario 64. It never really embodied any genre, except from liberally applying platforming elements from the 2D games into its definitively non-2D gameplay. Because of this, it had to reinvent itself in order for Mario to survive in the 3D space. That is what I think is happening with this Peach game. It's taking several different genre types, ranging from fast-paced action-adventure platforming games to more methodical point-and-click puzzle games, tossing in some Mario Party-style minigame elements and levels, and finally mixing it with 2D fighting games such as Street Fighter, and voila! You have one of the most creative and unique games. Let me ask, is there any game in the past ever that you've heard of that can take all these elements and blend them as well as this game has? But how can a freaking Princess Peach game, of all games, combine these seemingly incompatible genres? Ladies and gentlemen, that's where the theatricality and showmanship of Nintendo shines, quite literally, because this game takes place in a theater with many different shows, so it can get away with a lot of different things other games that are set on a more singular, strict stage can. Tears of the Kingdom being one of those. That game cannot stray outside of being based in the Kingdom of Hyrule, and Breath of the Wild Hyrule at that. And that's because it was billed as a direct sequel to that game. So, for the first time, we got a copy-pasted world, albeit a lot of things changed for obvious reasons. Nevertheless, the developers were limited in scope by the shackles of success the previous game suffered. Even Super Mario Bros. Wonder suffers from this, but to an obviously less limiting extent. Unlike the previous two mentioned games, Princess Peach Showtime's setting is inside of a theater, not a singular world. It has a lot of freedom. Princess Peach Showtime's setting is inside of a theater, where fiction becomes reality and vice versa. It gives the game a lot more freedom than the previous mentioned. Because the script is flipped, gameplay can be greatly varied because the set pieces vary between each individual area. And because of this, the gameplay will be wildly diverse in comparison to other games, such as the ones previously mentioned. This game focuses on the grand set pieces, which gives the gameplay much potential to be equally as grand. Do you understand what I'm saying? That is what Nintendo does, after all. See Metroid Prime. And the setting of this game allows it to be as loose and free as it wants, but not too much. Not without going too much off the rails now. The settings and world of a game is the determining factor as to how crazy a game can get with its premise. Even Super Mario Bros. Wonder, going back to that game, it is limited in its scope. Sure, it's based in the Flower Kingdom instead of the Mushroom Kingdom this time, which does allow it some amounts of freedom, but ultimately, it's limited in its scope by the Mario formula. That is, it's a 2D physics-based platforming Mario game with power-ups to help the player along. That is the Mario formula in a nutshell, guys. And that is the heart of Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Not saying that's a bad thing, just saying that it limits the scope, for better or worse. Princess Peach Showtime, however, is not limited by such a formula, nor even a pre-existing franchise. Let me stress, the last Princess Peach-centric game flopped for Nintendo, so they have zero incentive to make another. That means this game's limit is anything, but it doesn't go way too high in space, which may be my only critique of this game. When I first saw this game, I thought it was going to be off-the-walls bonkers in terms of story and gameplay, seeing that's based inside of the theater and all. That and the fact that we weren't really shown much of anything. But, much to my chagrin, what we see is what we get in this game. And while it's good to get a straightforward game every once in a while, it's not great to see in a game of this scale. I'm not saying this game is going to be a AAA tentpole game for Nintendo like Super Mario Bros. Wonder is going to be, but if it's going to get any players interested in Peach not only as a character, but as a franchise, then it needs to step itself up in a big way. No, not that big way. Donkey is based. What I'm talking about is, it needs to be like Super Mario 64. Okay, that may be an exaggeration, but is it really? It's critical that this game makes an impact with players, and I'm not sure a linear game with this simple gameplay mechanics will do that. Now, it's got a cool premise, but as we've seen from a lot of games in the modern age, it takes a lot more than just premise alone to sell a game. However, I do think Nintendo is being sneaky about this one. The trailer shows the basic plot, gameplay, and premise, and as far as we can tell, this is just the first area. Its gameplay from a surface level might look simple, but it's bound to be far from it. Going back to Super Mario Bros. 3, and I know I bring this up in every video, guys, but seriously, Mario Bros. 3 was one of the most influential games. That game, simple mechanics, straightforward gameplay, but every step, every world evolved upon each other. I think that's what this game is going to do. It's going to take all these simple ideas. It's going to up the ante every single level and every single world. Now, as I said, Nintendo is known for putting gameplay first and foremost. Hence, Miyamoto's hard-on to squash story as much as possible in all these games. The fact that this game has simple mechanics might be the redeeming factor of this game. Because it's simple, Nintendo and their skilled staff of expert game programmers can focus on taking all of those elements, the costumes and all the special abilities that those come with, and perfecting them to the best of their abilities. It seems that we can only use one costume in its intended stage, right? End of discussion. However, because of this limitation, I believe Nintendo will use this costume-based gameplay mechanic far beyond what one thought it could. That is what Nintendo is known for, especially nowadays. They were able to take the Pikmin franchise, a rather obscure franchise, and bring it into the limelight simply by taking the gameplay of the other games and perfecting it to an absurdly beautiful degree. I mean, let's just forget that the first hour was completely boring, but the rest of the game was beautiful. Now, if they can take Pikmin and bring it into the A tier of their franchises, what can they do with their golden girl, Princess Peach? Unlike what many think, Nintendo is really getting back to old school gameplay first thinking. They aren't holding your hand as much as they did in the not so distant past. Despite this game's simple look, I believe it might be far from it. I mean, it looks to me to be the most inventive game that Nintendo has, and possibly will ever release in a long while. And I implore you, why in the ever-loving fuck would Nintendo want to put this much creativity, effort, passion, and dedication into a game that turns out to be nothing more than a glorified Peach dress-up sim. This game deserves much more than that, and I think that's what we will be getting. Something more. Nintendo was very protective of this game once before. It is very likely that they are still doing that. They are still holding back the true secret of this game. And I believe that secret is the fact that this game will be the most important game for Nintendo. But what do you guys think about this Princess Peach game? Hit me up in the comments down below. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, especially if you like this video. And I will see you in the next one. And don't forget to love Princess Peach.